Howdy folks, it's time again for another Martin Turner adventure. This time, we're off to explore some slot canyons in southwestern Utah and northwestern Arizona. Well, on May 3rd, I got on one of those big old aerial planes and flew to Cedar City, Utah, and was picked up by Wendell and Denise. After picking up my bags, they told me we were going out to dinner at a place to the south. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, indeed, we did drive south. But we drove, and we drove until we arrived in the town of Hurricane, where, lo and behold, they surprised me with their new home. I have to tell you, from what I've been told, it's a place much more hospitable for Mr. Martin's aversion to cold and snow. I tell you what, when we got to that new house, I just stood there agape. My old mouth was wide open. By golly, Wendell and Denise, they didn't tell me, and they did surprise me. Early Thursday morning, we lit out from Hurricane and drove ourselves southwest down to Colorado City and Hilldale, then north to Water Canyon, where we took our first hike. While there, I had a chance to fly my new drone, which gave us an aerial view of that short slot canyon. In the afternoon, we drove to Page, Arizona, and we stayed at one of them elegant places called Motel 6. Golly, on Friday, we took a commercial tour of Antelope Slot Canyon that was located just east of Page. All I can say was, it was spang-dab spectacular. After we finished walking through Antelope Canyon, we drove down and across the Colorado River using the Navajo Bridge. The view of the river was incredible. Friday afternoon, we drove to a place north of Arizona's Vermilion Cliffs, and there's where we camped out. Wendell went off in search of potsherds and rock art, and I had more opportunities to fly my drone. On Saturday, we drove to the trailhead of Wire Pass and hiked its narrow slot canyon to Buckskin Gulch. Buckskin is reported to be the longest slot canyon in the world. And man, it was gorgeous. At about noon, we left the Wire Pass trailhead, drove through the town of Kanab, and headed to our next destination, Peekaboo Slot Canyon. About 80-some miles later, we turned off onto a road as sandy as the Sahara Desert. Slipping and a-sliding, we drove down this here road and finally stopped, stuck just a little bit. We said, "Whoa, Nellie, let's not drive any further." So we started hiking. But then we realized we might have chawed off more than we really wanted. Just then, a kindly Mormon family picked us up and took us back to Mr. Martin's truck. Them there Mormon fellas suggested we let air out of our tires to get back up to the highway. We did so, and after many times trying and getting out and letting out more air, we finally made it back to the main road. We looked at each other and thought of that old-timely comedy series, Laurel and Hardy. At the end of most of their adventures, they'd say,
"Well, here's another nice mess you've gotten me into."
What do you mean, I got you into?
Well, your name's Laurel, isn't it?
Back on the main highway, we looked at each other, wiped our brows, and thankful we'd escaped such a harrowing adventure, and drove about 40 miles further to a beautiful little campsite right next to the road. Oh, I tell you, it was a glorious night. Gin and tonics and good conversation were the evening's highlights. What else could two men want? Sunday morning, we drove east to Willis Creek in Utah and followed its meandering stream through a series of narrow but beautiful slot canyons. Sunday afternoon, we traveled west to Bryce Canyon National Park. Mr. Martin, consarn him, is averse to crowds, so he just indulged me in my desire to briefly traipse through the national park's hoodoos. We did it, and then we skedaddled. Jumpin' Jehoshaphat's if we didn't arrive back in Hurricane late Sunday afternoon. That left us with 2 whole days of carousing and hiking and all kinds of exploring. Monday and Tuesday, Wendell, Denise, their 3 dogs, and I took a series of short hikes just outside of Hurricane. I was able to get my drone flying, so was able to get some great shots of the deep canyons carved by the Virgin River. On the second day of adventuring around Hurricane, we drove to the ghost town of Grafton, Utah, a small Mormon settlement to the east of Hurricane that was founded in 1859. Tuesday evening, the 3 of us went out to dinner to celebrate another fine trip. Why, we had some great victuals, chicken and steak and other great stuff. When I woke up Wednesday morning, I couldn't believe how fast the week had gone. Wendell and Denise drove me back to Cedar City, and I flew back to Eugene. Well, sir, that pretty much wraps up our 37th Martin and Turner adventure, and it was a mighty fine one, too. Tell you what, with the good wind in our sails and the health god shining down on us, we are looking forward to the next Turner and Martin adventure.
when the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed. You just remember what your old past said. Boy, you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got trouble, and I got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. If we stick together, see it through, 'cause you got a friend in me. You got a friend.